All right, so now we're going to get into the first of 4 approaches or different ways to identify the message of a movie. All 4 of these are phrased as questions because it makes it a little bit easier to follow along this path and get to our own conclusion about what the message is. The first question is, who or what is the source of the conflict? Before we are able to ask this, the first thing we would have to do is identify the conflict itself, which is not too hard. What is the problem of the movie which has to be solved? That is the conflict. In a movie like Avengers Endgame, the evil superhero Thanos is trying to destroy the universe. That's the conflict. It's whatever has to be overcome by the main character, or whatever is causing issues for the main character or other people in the world. So once we identify the conflict, we want to ask who or what is the source of the conflict. And the source can belong to either an institution like police or the government, something like that, or it can belong to or an individual can be the source of the conflict. Is it just a person? If the source of the conflict is a person, you can ask what group does that individual come from? Are they from a racial or ethnic minority? Are they rich? Are they poor? What's their gender? And the movie can be making some kind of statement about that larger group. Not always, but that is one possibility. Let's look at some case studies. The first case study I want to look at is a Korean horror thriller movie called Bedeviled from 2010, I believe. This movie is about some people who live on an island, and there's a lot of horrible stuff that happens on the island. The women are repeatedly abused by the men, and this is pretty clear dividing line. The men abuse the women. So there we've already identified the source of the conflict. The source of the conflict is men. It is a group of individuals, so it's not a larger institution like the post office or the government or anything like that. It's a group of individuals, but they belong to a larger group, which is men. So the movie is saying something about gendered violence. You could say it's saying something about patriarchy, but just in general, what the movie is already beginning to say is something about men abusing women. And once we get into the next question, we can fine-tune that a little bit. But we're already getting to what the movie is about and what it's saying. Another case study is Okja, another Korean movie by chance, by the director of Parasite, who most of you have maybe seen that movie. His name is Bong Joon-ho. He made this movie in 2017, so a couple years before Parasite. But Okja is about a young girl who has a pet pig. It's what they call a super pig, a genetically modified pig, so it's gigantic. She was given the pig by a meat packing company, a meat company. They make meat to sell, and they let her keep it for a few years, but then they come back to take it because they want to kill it and make it into hamburgers, whatever, bacon, whatever it is. And so the conflict is Okja is taken away, and the girl wants to get Okja back because it's her pet pig and she loves it. That's the conflict itself. We have to get Okja back. But the source of the conflict is this particular company that is taking Okja so they can kill it and sell it, sell lots and lots of bacon, whatever. You can also say the movie is clearly making some kind of statement about capitalism itself and the values of society. You can say it's about the rich also. There's a clear distinction between all the protagonists are poor, all the antagonists or villains are rich. So that's another clear dividing line. And just based on that, identifying that, we can already start to come up with a message for the movie. It's about capitalism exploiting other countries. It's about, people mistreating animals. The protagonist views Okja as a friend, and the antagonist view Okja as bacon to be sold at the supermarket. So, in Bedeviled, the source of the conflict is some individuals which belong to a group. So we can just call it a group, men. In Okja, the source of the conflict, there are several, but it's more institutional. It's about capitalism. It's about the meat industry, animal harvesting industry. So these are more larger institutions, larger social forces, as well as also being a little bit about a particular group, rich people. You can make that argument as well. So this is the first question we can ask that already gets us very far along the way to being able to make some kind of statement about what the movie is about. In the next video, we'll talk about the second question we can ask, which builds on this one. So with at least one of these examples, Bedeviled, we're getting along the way to making a particular argument. Maybe not all the way there, but the second question will let us get all the way there if we're not already.